Hey guys, I'm back with another video of case-based questions from chapter number 2, Tissues, class 9. So let's get going with the case number 1. The growth of plant occurs only in certain specific regions. This is because dividing tissue, also known as meristematic tissue, is located only at these points. Depending on the region where they are present, meristematic tissue can be classified as apical, lateral, and intercalary. New cells produced by meristem are initially like those of meristem itself, but as they grow and mature, their characteristics slowly change and they become differentiated as components of other tissues. Apical meristem is present at the growing tips of the stem and root and increases the length of stem and root. The girth of the stem or root increases due to lateral meristem, which is having cambium fluid inside it. Intercalary meristem seen in some plant is located near node, that is internode. Cells of meristematic tissues are very active. They have dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose walls, and prominent nuclei. They lack vacuoles as they don't store food. They are efficiently made up of made for growing purpose. So first question, which meristem helps in increasing the girth of the plant? So it is lateral meristem, option D. Lateral meristem is responsible for increasing of apical portion, no increase in length, no increase in girth of stem and root, increase. So option C, increase in girth of stem and root. The meristem present at the base of the internode is known as intercalary meristem. What are the characteristics of meristematic tissue? So meristematic tissue is a tissue which is found in the plant, which which is responsible for growth in the plant. It has dense cytoplasm. It lacks vacuoles. It is just for growing tissue known as living tissue. It is living one and all. Endless types of meristematic tissue. So there are three basic types, that is apical, intercalary, lateral. Meristematic tissue take up a specific role and lose the ability to divide. As a result, they form a permanent tissue. This process of taking up a permanent shape, size, and function is called differentiation. Differentiation leads to the development of various types of permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissue. Tissue made up of one type of cells which look like each other. Such tissue is called simple permanent tissue. Parenchyma is the most common simple permanent tissue. It consists of relatively unspecialized cells with thin cell walls. They are living cells. They are usually loosely arranged. Thus, large spaces between cells are found in these tissues. The tissue generally stores food. In some situation, it contains chlorophyll and performs photosynthesis, and then it is called chlorenchyma. In aquatic plant, or large cavities are present in parenchyma to help them float. Such parenchyma is known as aerenchyma. Yet another type of permanent tissue is there known as sclerenchyma. It is the tissue which makes the plant hard and stiff. We have seen the husk of coconut. It is made up of sclerenchymatous tissue. The cells of this tissue are dead. They are long, narrow, as the walls are thickened due to presence of lignin, a fluid or a chemical substance. So it was all about simple permanent tissue. Had first type, that was parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Simple permanent tissue, complex tissue are made up of more than one types of cell. All these cells coordinate to perform a common function. Xylem and phloem are example of such complex tissues. They are both conducting tissues and constitute a vascular bundle. Xylem fibers are mainly supportive in function. Phloem transports food from leaves to other parts of the plant except phloem fiber. So what they have said, phloem transport food from leaves to parts of the plant except phloem fibers. Other phloem cells are living cells and these are dead cells. Tissues made up of only one type of tissue is known as simple permanent tissue. So option A. Xylem and phloem are example of complex tissues. In aquatic plants, which type of parenchymatous tissue is called? So it is parenchyma. What is the meaning? What is mean by differentiation? So it is the ability of It is the ability of taking a permanent shape, size, and function. This is done when the tissue loses its ability to divide. Endless types of parenchyma tissue: erenchyma, chlorenchyma. Sclerenchyma is not a parenchyma tissue. I mean, it doesn't come within this tissue type. Okay. Case study 3. Let's get started. It's a very important. That's why, guys, I'm reading it. Okay. Okay. The covering or protective tissue in the animal body are epithelial tissue. Epithelium covers most of the organs and cavities within the body. External and internal covering of the body and organs are all made up of epithelial tissue. So what I said, the covering tissue of animal body is known as epithelial tissue. It covers most of the organs and the cavities, and everything is made of epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue cells are tightly packed to form a continuous shield. They have only a small or almost no intercellular space. It plays an important role in regulating an exchange of materials between the body and external environment, and also between different parts of the body. So these epithelial tissue are again classified into several types. So first one is simple squamous epithelial. So cells are extremely thin and flat, form a delicate lining. The esophagus and the lining of the mouth covered with squamous epithelium tissue. The skin which protects our body is also made up of squamous epithelium, where absorption and secretion occurs as in the inner lining of the intestine. Tall epithelial cells are present. So see, where like we are having intestines, we do have our stomach and pancreas, all the body organs we can call. So these are responsible for absorption process and secretion. Some secretion means synthesizing some chemical substances, and also some organ absorption of some chemical substances. So for in case of these things, a columnar epithelium is present. Now what do you mean by columnar epithelium? So columnar means column. The word itself suggests it looks like a column. Okay, pillar like tissue or pillar like epithelium tissue is known as uh, columnar tissue. It facilitates okay, facilitate movement across the epithelial barrier. In the respiratory tract, the columnar epithelial tissue also has cilia, which are hair-like projection on the outer surface of epithelial tissue. So now in esophagus or in our intestine, there are some hair-like structure. In our stomach, it is known as bilious, while in esophagus, it is known as cilia. So these what do they do? They are like brushing one when the food is swallowed by our esophagus when we swallow the food. So these brush like things do not let the food stuck anywhere. They just move out the food. Their hair like projection, as I told you. These cilia can move, and their movement pushes the mucus forward to clear it. This type of epithelium is the ciliated columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium in the sense having cilia on the surface is known as ciliated columnar epithelium. Alright. Then what we have, cuboidal epithelium. So look, cuboidal epithelium is with cube shaped cells. So it is having a cuboidal shape, means just like a cube. Okay, cube. It is having some hollow spaces within it. It forms the lining of kidney tubules and ducts of salivary gland. Now why? Because of course maybe they must be storing something within themselves, where it provides mechanical support. Epithelial cells often acquire additional specialization gland cells, which can secrete substance at the epithelial surface. Sometimes a portion of epithelial tissue folds inward and multicellular gland is formed. This is known as glandular epithelium. So all the glands we know, what thyroid gland and several glands are there. So these are made up of glandular tissue, which is made up of cuboidal epithelium. Okay, so let's get started with the questions. The ciliated columnar epithelium is present in, now see, ciliated columnar, it will have cilia. So respiratory tract, bile duct, esophagus, fallopian tube, urethra, And what is this? Eustachian tube and stomach lining. So of course it is respiratory tract. Is it present in bile duct? I'm a bit confused because I read that it is present in respiratory tract, but I don't. And they have Helias like structures. All right, so let's take a respiratory tract as the answer. The cuboidal epithelium is present in bronchioles, bile duct, esophagus, fallopian tube, kidney tubules. Kidney tubules, ducts, or kidney tubules and the ducts of salivary glands. External and internal covering of body organs and are made up of course, epithelial tissue. How are cells arranged in epithelial tissue? See that they are tightly packed. They are closely packed, arranged in continuous manner. So what should be the answer? Closely packed. So is it correct? Option B, B, D, A. Option B, option B, option D, option A. Yeah, correct. And what was the last question? Endless types of epithelial tissue. So, see, simple squamous epithelium, columnar ciliated epithelium, glandular epithelium, cuboidal epithelium. Now, the last one, that is the case study 4. So, see, this case study came in my exam last time, and that's why I'm shooting the videos because it is extremely helpful for me. Blood is a type of connective tissue. The cell of connective tissue are loosely packed, loosely spaced and embedded in an intercellular matrix. The matrix may be jelly-like fluid, dense or rigid. The nature of matrix differs in concordance with function of particular connective tissue. Blood has a fluid matrix called plasma, in which red blood corpuscles, RBCs, WBCs, and platelets are suspended. Plasma contains proteins, salts, hormones, blood flows, and transports gases, digested food, hormones, and waste materials to the different parts of the body. Bone is another type of connective tissue. Yeah, it is a tissue. It forms the framework that supports the body. It also has anchor. It also anchors the muscles and supports the main organs of the body. It is strong and non-flexible tissue. Bone cells are embedded in a hard matrix that is composed of calcium and phosphorus compounds. Two bones can be connected to each other by another type of connective tissue called ligaments. This tissue is very elastic. Another type of connective tissue, cartilage, has widely spaced cells. Solid matrix is composed of proteins and sugars. So see, cartilage is made up of proteins and sugars. So you should intake more of the proteins, but no sugar. Okay. Cartilage smoothens bones surface at joints and is also present in the nose, ear, trachea, larynx. Areolar connective tissue is found between skin and muscles, around blood vessels and nerves, in bone marrow. It fills the space inside the organs, supports internal organs, and helps in repair of tissues. So let's get started with the questions. A connective tissue covers the skin, has no matrix, has abundant matrix. So it has abundant matrix. Areolar connective tissue is found between areolar, blood vessels and nerves, skin and muscle, both A and B. So it is C, found between skin and muscle, blood vessels and nerves, both A and B. Two bones are connected to each other by another type of tissue called ligament. What is the function of connective tissue? To join something, binding the organ binding to bones and all. And give example of connective tissue. So connective tissue, ligament, tendon, cartilage, bone, blood, etc. Next is this case 25. I thought the fourth one is the last one. All right, let's read it. Muscular tissue consists of elongated cells called muscle fibers. This tissue is responsible for movement in our body. Muscle contains special protein called contractile protein, which contract and relax and cause the movement. We can move some muscles by conscious will. Some muscles are called voluntary muscles. Such muscles are voluntary one. These muscles are called skeletal muscles as they are mostly attached to bones and help in body movement. Under the microscope, these muscles show alternate light and dark bands or striations on it. Hence, they are called striated muscles. The cells of this tissue are long, cylindrical, unbranched, and multinucleated. The movement of food in alimentary canal or the contraction and relaxation of blood vessels are involuntary movements. We can't control this movement by our own will. The smooth muscles or involuntary muscles control such movements. They are also found in iris of the eye, in uterus, and in bronchi or lung. So see, uterus, uterus, eye, and these muscles we can control it, but sometimes we cannot. Okay, but most of the times we can't. While controlling the uterus is stretched, so we can control. The cell are long with pointed ends and uninucleated, means only one spindle shape. They are called unstriated muscles. Muscle of heart show rhythmic contraction, relaxation throughout the life. These involuntary muscles are called cardiac heart muscles. Cells are cylindrical, branched, and uninucleated. Which of the following muscle tissue are voluntary in nature? Means which can move. That is what? None of these. Cardiac muscle, they're involuntary. Smooth muscle, involuntary. Autorhythmic, none of these. The muscle whose contraction is under our control is known as voluntary muscles. Voluntary, okay. Smooth muscles are found in iris and option D, all of these. So D, A, D, correct. Give characteristics of striated muscles. So striated muscles, they are having light and dark brand striations. We can control by our will, and they're multinucleated, unbranched, and all. Give characteristics of unstriated. They don't have strips of dark and light. They are spindle shape, and then striations are absent. Hence, they are called unstriated muscles. Hope you like this case study based video. Do subscribe for more. Bye, guys.